in case anyone needs to write that down. So many of us here have grown up with images like this all over our media and news. Pictures of flames and chaos all over the world because of the political turmoil we face, and because citizens don't trust their politicians to make the right decisions. This particular picture was taken on May 30th, 2020, shortly following the death of George Floyd. This was from a riot in, I think, Memphis, Tennessee. At the time this picture was taken, I was staying in Georgia with my family. And throughout Florida and Georgia, where I was staying, I saw these protests shut down major streets and highways, and every corner I turned, I saw people with masks holding banners, just very upset at the state of the world and the condition it was in. This personally impacted me because I felt the pain that everyone was going through, but I was only 14 at the time, and I didn't know how to fix it or do anything. A year later, this picture was taken of Joe Biden's inauguration to be president of the United States. And this day I watched from school here, and I was 15, and I saw the change that voting can make, because instead of seeing pictures of flames, I saw pictures like this. Pictures of relief and pride among Americans about what their vote changed and uplift the political state of the United States. Now, not everyone was happy, but I saw a major shift because of voting. So this led me to believe that voting was one of the most major rights that we have as Americans that can be made with our right to vote to change the country. And so, especially in young people. So I have these statistics. First one is from the United States Census, saying the 2020 presidential election had the highest voter turnout of the 21st century, with 66.8% of citizens 18 years and older voting in the election. And that is about 2/3 of the United States that were eligible to vote at the time. Gen Z and millennial voters made up 30% of the electoral in 2020, up 23% just 4 years earlier. So the younger voters, aged 18 to 29, made up about half of the vote, which changed the country and made it more applicable to what the general population wanted their politicians to look like. After I saw the change that voting can do, I got really involved in politics. I started working with activist groups and different politicians all throughout Utah to work for their campaigns. So I emailed some of the people I love to talk to, and I got their quotes personally from why they think voting for young people is important. So this is Mayor Wykers just across the street. He said, "One of my favorite things about being mayor of Cottonwood Heights is making sure our residents have a voice to be heard. We might not agree with everyone we hear from, but the ability to be heard is fundamental to the First Amendment of our Constitution. The opportunity we have to vote is another way to have our voice heard." And then Scott Bracker, a councilman across the street, said, "I have seen decades of youth interacting with politicians. Without fail, the elected officials listen and interact with them as well as, or better than, with older voters." And then I talked to a couple Congress people. So Mike Peterson, who is a Republican for District 3, said voting is one of the most important and sacred activities an American can participate in. Citizens who research both issues and candidates and then vote accordingly are invaluable to the success of our community and nation. Please learn the issues and please vote. And Galen Benyon, the representative from our district that the school is in, said, "One of my finest colleagues in the Utah House of Representatives, Suzanne Harrison, lost by only 3 votes the first time she ran for office. The second time she ran, she won by 10%. People have died and sacrificed for us to have this right, the foundation of democracy. Vote and vote all down the ballot." I really like these quotes because they are personal within our own community and with the youth, and they also show the importance of our personal politicians that they think young people can really change our democracy. All throughout the world, different democracies all are faltering. People don't have trust in their politicians, and they are taking to the streets and upset. But I think democracy is a valuable thing because votes are a unique aspect of our government that have a personal vote. And the smaller, the more localized run or vote gets, the bigger impact it has. A presidential vote gets a lot of publicity, but millions of people are voting. But our local votes here make so much more difference, and young people can get involved in a myriad of ways, from dog parks to different protests to social aspects they believe in. Now, it is really easy to watch the news and get really stressed out. Many people don't want to vote because they feel depressed when they watch the news, or they get anxious when they look at current events. Harvard study done by the political science students there said that given the progress on those fronts being social justice issues such as race, LGBTQ issues, reproductive issues, have been slow at best, it should be no surprise that many young people look at the state of American politics in disrepair. Another article I read by a journalist from Rolling Stone said that he doesn't believe young people should vote because our brains are not fully developed enough and we are more impressionable. He said that we don't have enough life aspect and that we are too young and naive to listen to any politician and let someone who's not adequate for office get in the way. And so as my compromise, I think that young people should vote, and I'm talking children, like children under 18. And now I'm just saying their vote should not be counted for the general election. But in Sweden, Denmark, and Australia, they have done trials where they put ballot boxes or mail-in voting next to the real ones that actually count, so that it lets children talk with their parents or peers and understand how a political system works and how to vote, and it starts young. I think this would be very important and good to try, even starting at local elections, because it helps children understand how to evaluate a politician, decide their own personal views, and to overcome the hurdle of actually putting in a vote. It allows children to understand the process of the American political system before their vote actually counts for office, and it helps them communicate with their peers effectively and erase the chance of major riots that harm our country. So thank you. Just in case anyone here is 18 or will be 18 by November 8th, we have midterms coming up in our country, and if you want to register to vote and have your voice heard, you can go to vote.utah.gov to register.
You did a great job. What questions do you guys have for Amelia?
What would you say is the best way to start learning about politics and get started in that?
Reading the news is really big. Also, local politicians get really excited when they meet a young person in politics. So I am in the Young Democrats of Utah Club, and we go around meeting all the different politicians, Democrats in the state, and we help them with their voting campaigns. And so if you meet and connect with those people and get involved in like a party you care about or local events at all, so like I would say reading the news, looking at websites, or contacting politicians, like there are so many resources that would be excited to get you help and get you started. Brandon?
What do you think was like the biggest thing that made it so that there was a rise in voting this last election, 2020?
So in the 2016 election that elected Donald Trump, they had like one of the lowest numbers of voters counted in the 21st century, and I think when people were unhappy with the face of the country, just where they looked at, that caused these riots that I was talking about in May, they saw that people had not used their voice and voted during the 2016 elections, and then in 2018 during their midterms, they saw an uptick of votes and people started getting a little bit happier. And so when they saw that voting actually could change the political face of our nation, the 2020 presidential election just totally spiked.
Well done. Thank you so much.
Thank you.